Was very popular on that occasion and delivered for the crowd, came out victorious. Look at the participating riders then here this evening. They will feature from right to left in terms of starting order in the sections. Toby Martin, Mikel Gelabert, Gabriel Marseille, Jaime Busto, Jorge Casales, Matteo Grattarolo, the replacement rider, and the top three from the World Championship in 2020, Gironi Fajardo, Adam Raga and Tony Bow. That's your seeding order then. And the first rider out onto the sections will be the only rider who doesn't now go back to the side of the stage to watch their rivals and understand what these sections are all about, and that will be Toby Martin, first rider out. Mentioned a couple of changes to the regulations for this season. The main one is a refinement of the tie-break rules. For round one, if two riders or more are equal in this stage, the rider with the disadvantageous first starting position will take the highest ranking. Later on it changes. In round two, it'll be the rider with the better result in round one, and in the consolation final, the final will still go to a tie-break section if required, and in the case of the final, we'll go to as many tie-break sections as we need to get a settled result in terms of the top two in tonight's Extra Andorra La Vella. In the case of a tie after the tie-break section in the consolation final, well, we'll talk about that if we get there, but we'll be looking at time, and then if we still can't break them, we'll be looking back to the previous round, round two. First rider into the 6 sections. Riders have 6 minutes to complete these 6. Toby Martin of Great Britain, 21 years of age. Hosting a new minder tonight in Michael Brown. Former rider himself, made 22 extra appearances. Toby Martin, by contrast, has just 2 to his name. This will be the biggest step of section 1. Martin sets himself up nicely. Solid start to the evening for Toby Martin, who's out with a clean in section 1. Toby Martin, the least experienced rider in the field, as we said, with just 2 appearances in the past. In now to section number 2. This one's a tougher one. Solid work so far. That's going to be a mark for leaning. You can see the bikers stop there on the sump. Make his way down the other side. Short sections in the early stages. Martin has already got his way through the first 2 with less than a minute of time used. Time is no longer a tie break, so he doesn't need to rush. He can manage the time from here on in. He's got 5 minutes to complete the remaining 4 sections. Just a single mark scores over the opening 2 sections. Toby Martin continues on now, section 3. Again, great work of that section from Toby Martin. This looks like being a low-scoring trial tonight. Steeper steps to come over the course of sections 4 and 5. There's going to be a mark for leaning. Quite a clear sound as well from the sub. Metallic sound of metal on metal, of course. Sections largely metallic as well, with grip on them. With paint as well, making them treacherous. Biggest leap of this lap so far, and a first failure of round number 1 in Extra Andorra La Vella, and it's Toby Martin. So 6 marks from the 4 completed sections so far, 2 sections remaining. Martin will set the bar. If there is a tie-break, Martin stands to benefit in round 1 as the first rider out through the sections. Disadvantageous in terms of opening new ground, giving an idea to his rivals about what the lines might be. The best lines, anyway. This is the other big step that I was talking about now for Toby Martin to negotiate. This is going to be tough for all of the riders, I fancy, particularly for Martin, the man with the least experience. Big moment for Toby Martin in the context of his potential qualification. Remember, only 6 riders will move through. Toby Martin comes straight down. Didn't get enough purchase or enough reach. 2 fiascos in succession then for Toby Martin. 11 marks from 5. 1 section still to go in round number 1. 3.5 minutes to do it, so they're short sections. And the first 2 look pretty straightforward in particular. 6th and final section of round number 1 for Toby Martin of Great Britain, the 21-year-old. Set for a move up to Trial GP next summer, really proved himself in the 2nd tier of the sport. He's up against the big guns tonight. Opening Extra Andorra La Vella. 1,500 strong crowd here in the capital of the Principality of Andorra. First module, and the riders do have to touch all of these modules, so it might look as though they can leap from one end to the other. They will have to touch the 2 blocks. You can see the stickers there. in your picture, stickers indicating to the riders that they are required to drop down onto these squares. So this is a potential risk for leaning, but Martin negotiates it well. Now he's got to drop down the other side and make his way across that cylinder. He may choose to bridge first with the front wheel on the cylinder, and that's exactly what he's done. Back wheel will now come down. There it is, but Martin falls backwards and down he goes. It's 3 failures in a row. Toby Martin ends round number 1 on a score of 16 marks, and that's the tally they've got to beat. In Extral Andorra La Vella, it started with so much promise for Toby Martin. Late on, he's failed 3 in a row. It remains to be seen whether that's enough to move through inside the top 6. See again, images from Toby Martin's lap there. Crash in section 6 first of all. Falls as well in sections 4 and 5. Not particularly frustrated with the section 5 one. Clearly felt that that was achievable for him. I must admit, sections 4 and 5 have the biggest steps in this opening round, and then section 6 is the more technical of the sections. Just those 2 cylinders at the end, slippery material and not a lot of purchase either. Brief delay. I wonder whether there might have been some discussion as to whether there was any damage to the sections and so on, but we are now out onto the arena floor for the second rider. This is Mikel Gelabert, twice an Extral podium finisher, of course. His first Extral podium and only his 3rd appearance, an incredible 2nd place at 2018 Extral Strasbourg, and the 3rd at Extral Marseille in 2019 to his name as Mikel Gelabert. 16 Extral appearances, 2 of them have ended in podiums on tonight's Extral Andorra La Vella. 16 the tally to beat. Mikel Gelabert, that's the early target. Section 1. Toby Martin was able to clean this one. In fact, he only dropped 1 mark in the first half of the lap, and he did it in record time as well. Short sections early on. Gelabert up on the back wheel, doing what he needs to do to avoid any drop marks for leading, and it's a clean in section 1 for Mikel Gelabert. There's a polite round of applause from the crowd here in Andorra La Vella. Section 2 for Gelabert. Sherco and Vertigo rider, has been with Gas for a while now, but not in terms of extra, such has been our break. Gelabert working hard here to avoid dropping a mark for leading, and he's done so. It's given us a clean. Toby Martin, remember, took a mark at the very peak, the crest of that section 2. So pound for pound, Gelabert is already a mark ahead of where Toby Martin was at the same stage. Which of course means that as long as he gets through this one, section 3, in similar fashion to Martin, i.e. clean, he will beat Toby Martin for that. Mikel Gelabert is up over the main step of the section. Now it's a couple of tricky crests to avoid dropping a mark for leading, not slip off the face of either of those cubes as well, and Gelabert's done that very well indeed. He is clean through section 3. He will beat Toby Martin here tonight, regardless of his efforts in the remaining 3 sections. Martin failed all 3 from sections 4 to 6, and Mikel Gelabert get the better of him. Section 4. This is where Toby Martin fails. Trying to bridge up to the main step of this section. It's the highest point of this Extral so far for Mikel Gelabert. You can see the height that he's got to reach. Mind performing acrobatics as ever. Presses himself in. Oh, he was so close to making that one. And I think he knew it as well, given the anguished look on his face as he tumbled back to a fiasco. Opportunity missed there for Mikel Gelabert. His first drop marks on the lap, and it's a 5-mark score in section 4. Onwards and upwards for Gelabert. His first drop marks. Now he moves on to section 5. Another section that was failed by Toby Martin first time out. Really the challenge for the first 3 riders out, of course, is they don't know what kind of scores the top 6 seeds are going to be able to manage and what they'll need to beat in order to move through to round 2, the heat stages. Extral Andorra La Vella. This is the big step that caught out Martin. Tricky one as well, because the section is angled down. It's such a leap then up to the main cylinder, and it's a curved surface as well. Get the back tyre as high as possible. Fire explosively through to the end of section 5. That's the target. Penultimate section for Mikel Gelabert. And he's down and out. That's 10 marks from 5. He's failed the same 2 as Toby Martin, section 4 and 5. And that single dab for Martin in section 2 could yet prove costly. Section 6, and Jalabert managed this one where Toby Martin failed before. Has he been able to learn sufficient from the TRS man? Martin, the first rider out into the sections tonight. 2.5 minutes still to go, so no worries on time. It's super quick sections in round 1. They'll get more difficult for the final because 4 of them are in 2 directions. So if they've taken only 30 seconds here, they'll only have a minute in the final for each of them. Mikel Jalabert, will he take the same approach now as Toby Martin? He must touch that block. Oh, he's balanced it nicely. There was a moment where I thought he was teetering backwards. It's still clean as well. Mikel Jalabert is up. Fine performance in section 6 from Mikel Jalabert. It's a 4th cleanable act. 10 marks to total. Clean or 5 for Mikel Jalabert. The gas man. Remains to be seen whether that's enough to get him through, but it's enough to beat Toby Martin by 6 marks, and Mikel Jalabert leads X-Trial Andorra La Vella. 10 marks for Mikel Jalabert, 16 for Toby Martin. Next rider to try and beat that 10-mark score will be Gabriel Marseille. Need to avoid failing 2 sections, as Jalabert has just done before him. Of course, if Marseille does fail 2 sections and ends on 10 marks, the same as Jalabert under new regulations in 2021, it would be Jalabert who has the advantage by virtue of the disadvantageous first starting position. Action again from Jalabert as he tumbles back in section 4, and the same in section 5. But section 6, the key moment. That's where he's made most of the gap he's got over Toby Martin. 5 marks for Martin there in section 6. Mikel Jalabert, the first rider to make it through, let alone make it through clean. 3rd rider out tonight is Gabriel Marseille, now in his 2nd season as a permanent rider in the X-Trial World Championship. Scored his first podium at X-Trial Budapest last season, otherwise pretty inconsistent. Actually made his debut at X-Trial Budapest as well in 2018. He's been a Montesa regular since. One of the products of this new era of X-Trial, along with the likes of Mikel Jalabert. Riders taking their time in the sections this evening. They've got plenty of it in the sections as well. 6 minutes more than sufficient for the 2 riders who've gone so far in round number 1. Gabriel Marseille laying rubber just to give himself maximum grip for an explosive start to section 1. No riders have struggled with that initial step, to be honest. It's been 2 clean so far. Toby Martin and Mikel Jalabert. Gabriel Marseille then, the 3rd rider through, 21 years of age. Up the first step successfully. Laying rubber, whether it was preparing himself psychologically or whether it was just cleaning the tyres as he wished. It's so far so good. And it is a clean in section 1. Gabriel Marseille. So far so good. But it was the same for Martin and Jalabert before him. These next 2 are critical. Marseille needs to keep it clean, frankly. Martin dropped a single mark in section 2. Mikel Jalabert was clean over sections 2 and 3. So that's the target for Marseille. Do the same as Jalabert before him. Very good. So far so good. All on the back wheel, and that's done in real style and with real alacrity. Beautiful from Marseille. 2 sections, 2 cleans. Still 5 minutes on the clock. Still 4 sections to go. Jalabert was also clean through this one, section 3. Martin as well. Can't afford errors in the X-Trial World Championship in 2021. Knockout format as always. Such a strong lineup, so difficult to predict these days. That'll be a mark for leaning. First crest, and he caught it with the sup. It was the merest of glances, but it was enough. And the observer was right on the case. Top notch so far. No marginal calls to make, though, thus far in the X-Trial. So it's a single mark for Gabriel Marseille in section 3. So if he's going to beat Mikel Jalabert, he's going to have to get through one of the next 2 sections that Jalabert failed. Will it be section 4? Will it be section 5? Will it be neither? This is better news for Mikel Jalabert than it is for Gabriel Marseille, who at the moment, at the halfway mark in round 1, is on the same score that Toby Martin was at the same stage. Marseille then. Front wheel down into the crop. Now he's got to flick the front wheel up. Back wheel where he wants it. Compression like Jalabert before he slides down. Wedge himself in and then try to power up. Receives encouragement from his minder. As I said, wedging that front wheel in. You can see the height of the section from this angle. Gabriel Marseille, crucial moment for him. Section 4, failed by the two riders before him. And the front wheel has to be caught by Jimenez, his minder. And it's a 5-mark score in section 4. So it's 6 from 4. Gabriel Marseille, still one more than Jalabert was on at the same stage. 2 sections to go. 10 marks the score to beat for Gabriel Marseille. Of course, there are still 6 more riders to come, but he'll want to keep things in his own hands as much as possible. Stay ahead of Jalabert. Got a maximum of 4 marks to play with over the next 2. Well, 3 marks to play with, really, because if he ties with Jalabert, of course, it's Jalabert who has the advantage under this new format for 2021. So far, so good, but the biggest step is still to come. This is the one that's going to make the difference as far as Marseille is concerned. Section 6 has already been cleaned by Mikel Jalabert, who showed the way. Different approach from Marseille. He's going to take it side on. Is he going to try and just force his way up here and use a leg if he needs to, use a dab if he needs to, paddle his way if he needs to? Maximum of 3 marks to play with. Of course, if he scores 3 here, he'll be on 9 with a section to go, and a section that he knows has already been cleaned by Mikel Jalabert. Big moment this for Marseille. Tessa Man. 9th extra appearance. Oh dear, gets that badly wrong before he even got off the penultimate module. Clatters down quite nastily as well. He's got a moment to catch his breath before the final section. All is not lost just yet, but he will be beaten by Mikel Jalabert. So we have a new order. Mikel Jalabert leads the X-Trial. Gabriel Marseille into 2nd on 11. Toby Martin 3rd on 16. Another 5 drop marks for Marseille here, and he would be behind Toby Martin. Riders are allowed a timeout for mechanical failures if they need it. Looks as though Marseille is not happy with the bars, whether they've been knocked out of shape, whether they're not quite straight after his fall there in section 5. It is 2 fiascos in a row for him, as it was for Mikel Jalabert, but crucially for Marseille, had a single dab in section 3, and of course, even if he hadn't had that one, he would have been behind Jalabert in terms of countback. Final section of round 1 for Gabriel Marseille, who sits on 11 marks so far. 16 the score he's got to beat. He's got to get through this one to beat Toby Martin. Nervous moment here for him. Step up the side of this block, try and avoid dropping a mark for leaning. That's any part of the bike other than the tyres touching the section, of course. It's the base of the engine plate that is always a risk in extra. Gabriel Marseille. Less than a minute to go. He's taken his time after the crash, and that's understandable. Up he goes. That's done well. Still clean in section 6. Mikel Jalabert was clean before him. Mikel Jalabert, the current leader of this X-Trial. Just those 2 failures in sections 4 and 5 against him. Again, bridging to the next cylinder. The 2 previous riders have done. Got to be careful not to fall backwards out of the section like Toby Martin did before. Should be home clear now for Gabriel Marseille. Marseille does enough to beat Toby Martin. It's 3 cleans on the lap, but a drop mark in section 3 could prove pivotal in the final reckoning. It leaves him a mark behind Mikel Jalabert in what's been a low-scoring X-Trial so far, and the biggest names are still to come. The scoring's only going to get tighter and tougher. Mikel Jalabert leads X-Trial Andorra La Vella. If any of the remaining riders finish behind him on their lap, that will be enough to see him through to the heat stages. Gabriel Marseille has things more difficult. Toby Martin is 5 adrift of his nearest rival as things stand. Look back there at Marseille's efforts. Cleans in the opening 2 sections, single drop mark in section 3. Could be one that he comes through. Needed to get through one of sections 4 or 5 anyway to beat Mikel Jalabert, and he couldn't do so. 11 marks for Gabriel Marseille then. Will that be enough? Jaime Busto is next up. Newly signed with Vertigo for 2022 and 23. Deal announced in late September. That's going to bring him to 4 full years with the manufacturer. Good time of late for Vertigo, who recently launched their new Nitro model. They're expanding production facilities in Barcelona as well. That's mark for leaning there for Jaime Busto on the first step, and that is a surprise. That's the first rider to drop a mark in section 1. The other 3 riders before him have all been clean. That really is going to leave Jaime Busto under pressure to get through sections 4 and 5. The rest of the section, good work from Busto. But I would suggest that's a bit of a nervous start from Jaime Busto. First step of the 2021 season, and Busto takes a mark for leaning. Rider of immense capacity and immense talent. Was hailed when he first came into the sport as the man who would replace Tony Bowe. That's been more in doubt over recent years. His temperament hasn't always worked in his favour. Consistency hasn't often been there either. Section 2 is clean. Single mark from 2 sections. Remember, Martin and Marseille were on a single mark at the halfway mark on the lap. Mikel Jalabert was clean after those 3 completed sections. Section 3 up next for Jaime Busto. Fast start to it as well. Still 5 minutes to go. So time not an issue. The rider to have used the most time so far was Marseille, who still had 20 seconds to spare. On the back wheel, coming out of section 3. Is the damage already done though for Jaime Busto? He's got to get through one of the next 2 sections to be able to beat Marseille, let alone to challenge Mikel Jalabert. Busto under pressure. Big step this one for Jaime Busto. 23-year-old from the Basque Country. Into this season with a great deal more experience on the Vertigo machine than he did at the start of 2020. Of course, 20 months on. Busto is up. Jaime Busto is the first rider to make it to the summit of section 4. He's taken a mark for leaning. But if he can avoid any more drop marks in the remainder of section 4, he will move above Mikel Jalabert and Gabriel Marseille. Great ride from Jaime Busto that gets his night back on track. Busto with a single drop mark in section 4 moves on to 2. At this stage, Jalabert had 5, Marseille and Martin on 6 apiece. So Busto now will definitely beat Toby Martin in round 1. If he were to fail the 2 remaining sections though, he would still finish behind Jalabert and Marseille. So he's not out of the woods just yet, Jaime Busto. This section has been failed by all 3 riders behind him, before him, section 5. 2 to go. 5 here would leave him under pressure in section 6. On the back wheel, this is going to be quite some leap if Busto's going to manage it. He's going to have a go, and he too is down. That really looks an impossible section. We'll see if that's the way it proves over the rest of round 1. One to watch out for because it'll come again in the grand final as well. 7 marks then for Jaime Busto. If he scores 3 marks here, he will tie with Mikel Jalabert. Jalabert will have the advantage, so he needs 2 better to guarantee his place in the heat stages round number 2. 2 marks is the target here for Jaime Busto. So far, so good. Needs to avoid dropping a mark here for leaning. This isn't the part of the section that riders have had problems with. Jalabert and Marseille were both clean, remember. Toby Martin fell just before this cylinder. Busto's been shown the way by Jalabert and Marseille. Bridge with the front wheel, I said that before Martin took the section. That's the way the riders are approaching it. Busto teeters on the edge. Gets the balance. Jaime Busto is the first rider to book his place in the heat stages of Extra Andorra La Vella 2021. It's a clean in section 6. He finishes the lap on 7. He's got 3 riders behind him in the provisional standings. Jalabert, Marseille and Martin still in the drop zone. Nervous start for Jaime Busto, single drop mark in section 1, 2 cleans in a row. Certainly calmed the nerves, but it was all about section 4. That was the key performance. Just a single drop mark there, a section that had been failed by the 3 riders before him. And that's what guarantees him his place in the heat stages. Jaime Busto, first rider to book his position in round 2. Clean in section 6, cleans in sections 2 and 3, but it was about how many sections Busto was able to get through. Only 1 fiasco out of the 6, and it does look as though keeping those failures to a minimum is what's going to determine riders moving through or not to the heat stages. 3 failures for Toby Martin, who's bottom, 2 apiece for Jalabert and Marseille. second and third respectively, and Jaime Busto only one failure, is out in front on 7. Jorge Casales is next up, 26 years of age. Hasn't been out of the top 6 in his last 5 X-Trials, dating back to the Championship's last visit to Andorra in 2019. Placing the heat stages will certainly be the minimum expectation for him. First step, saw Jaime Busto drop an errant and frankly unnecessary mark, and I say unnecessary because the 3 riders prior to him had all been clean. Jorge Casales now, section 1. 6 minutes on the clock. Main step of section 1, Casales has got that wrong. He didn't get the reach that he was aiming for, and now he's in a precarious position. He's taken a mark for leading. Left foot goes down as well. Well, I thought the foot came up and went back down again, but I'm sure they'll debate that after. Looks like 2 marks have been given for Jorge Casales. He might count himself lucky not to have ended up with 3 there. Have to watch that back at the end. Casales, 2 marks so far. That's more than anyone has dropped in section 1. So after an excellent start in that section for Toby Martin, the last 2 riders have struggled with it. Casales racing through section 2 and doing so clean. First clean of the evening for him. 2 marks from 2 sections. He's another one who's going to have to get through either sections 4 or 5. Really, it's been a tough run of late for Jorge Casales. Had a nasty injury in April to his ribs and spleen as well. Forced him to miss over a month of pre-season preparations for the summer. Then got a positive COVID test at the first trial GP of the year. Was left in hotel isolation for 2 weeks. And later in the season, he withdrew from the Spanish Championship round. Hospitalised after an anxiety attack. A drop mark on leaning already. That's going to be another. And can he even get it out of this crevice, Jorge Casales? It could be a first rider to fail in section 3. You can see he's dragging his feet. That's 3 marks now. And for me, that could well prove a failure for Casales. He gets away with it. 3 marks for Jorge Casales. A lucky boy as well. That could easily have been a failure in section 3. At one stage, it looked as though he was practically paddling his way through. And it could easily have been 3 in section 1 as well. And if we were looking at 3 marks more and 8 marks after 3 completed sections for Casales, he'd really be in trouble. Instead, it's 5. He's got to get through one of these next 2, 4 or 5, to keep himself in contention. 5 marks from 3 sections. Most any of the other riders had dropped was 1. Jorge Casales then, hoping to put that difficult summer behind him with a strong X-Trial campaign. It's been disappointing so far. Section 4. Big reach, but he too becomes a victim of section 4. 4th rider to fail there. Moves on to 10. Same score as Mikel Jalabert. Jalabert would beat him on countback even if Casales were to be clean in the next 2. Nobody has managed to get through section 5, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see another failure here for Casales that will drop him behind both Jalabert and Marseille. It's this big step at the end of the section that Casales has struggled with. 10 marks from 4 sections so far. First failure last time out in section 4. Casales trying to get some heat into the back tyre by the looks of it. Crucial final step. Crucial because if he cleans it, he's very much in with a chance of beating Marseille. Can't beat Busto now. He's not going to beat Jalabert either. It's about Casales versus Marseille at this stage, and Casales needs a clean. Work on the back wheel, big leap. I really think that could prove impossible in section 5. If anyone's going to make it achievable, it's going to be the last 2 riders out, Ragger and Bo. It's a 5 for Jorge Casales. Back-to-back fiascos for him. 15 marks with the section still remaining. If he's not clean here, he will be beaten by Toby Martin as well. As it is, Casales drops into 4th position behind Gabriel Marseille after that failure in section 5. Casales in real trouble here, and it's been given as a 5. A failure for Jorge Casales. He finishes his lap on 20 marks, and he is bottom of the pile. Toby Martin moves up 1 position. What a disastrous lap that was from Jorge Casales, and it could have easily been more marks as well. 2 dropped in section 1, could easily have been 3. 3 dropped in section 3, could easily have been a failure. And then 3 failures in a row to round out the lap. Section 6 that had been cleaned by the last 3 riders consecutively. Casales comes home with a 5. And he's bottom of X-Trial Andorra La Vella. What a difference a couple of years can make. Remember that Casales was super value here in 2019. Made it to the consolation final and was eventually awarded a podium place. Jorge Casales dropping 5 marks in the first 3 sections. 1 was the previous worst. And things only got worse from their 3 consecutive fiascos. He's not a smiley character at the best of times. Jorge Casales keeps his emotions largely close to his chest. But he had a distinct frown by the end of round number 1 here in X-Trial Andorra La Vella. I suspect that is the last we'll see of Casales tonight. Standings at present: Jaime Busto 7, Mikel Jalabert 10, Gabriel Marcelli 11, Toby Martin 16, and Jorge Casales 20. That will also be enough, that result from Casales, to guarantee Mikel Jalabert his place in the heat stages. Busto and Jalabert already through. Marcelli, Martin and Casales in the drop zone as Matteo Grattarola now takes the arena floor. Got to avoid the kind of errors that have crept in for the last couple of big names. Busto and Casales, both very capable performers. Matteo Grattarola, more experienced than them in terms of years on the bike, 33 years of age, but he's made just 10 X-Trial appearances. Focused generally on the outdoor scene, really reinvigorating those things, joining better. And this season has very much been one of his best. 2 drop marks there already. 1 for leaning on the crest, another for footing. Is he going to get away with a 3rd there at the end of the section? It is 2 for Matteo Grattarola in section 1. Same score as Jorge Casales, so not a good start at all. Section 2, cleaned by all but Toby Martin. Martin dropped a single mark at the top of this section. Grattarola teetering on the edge of dropping a mark for leaning. Got to avoid that sump touching the metal of the section. Slides his way down. Cool and composed in section 2. Matteo Grattarola is clean. 2 marks from 2 sections. Jorge Casales was on the same total at this same stage. Gabriel Marcelli will be rubbing his hands together every time he sees Matteo Grattarola drop a mark. He's the next rider with an opportunity to move up the order. As I said, Grattarola's been great value since joining better. Becoming the manufacturer's #1, really. That's how he's earned his way into the back into the X-Trial World Championship after such a long absence. This only his 2nd appearance under the current X-Trial format of 6 sections in 6 minutes. There was a moment there where Grattarola was unbalanced and he decided that it was time to just launch his way to the end of section 3 rather than risking losing that equilibrium and dropping out. So it's a clean in section 3, 2 cleans in a row, puts him back in front of Casales, and he won't be last at least tonight, Matteo Grattarola. Even 5 failures now would leave him on 17. That will be better than Casales. Section 4, Jaime Busto, the only rider to make it through here. Grattarola take the same approach. I don't think there's too much about it in terms of alternatives. It's all about power. Matteo Grattarola trying to leap to the top of this section. If he can get through this one, he puts himself in a great position to qualify. Same with section 5, although that looks tougher to crack. It's a single mark for leaning, but that looked like a security mark for me. Grattarola wanted to make sure he got up, and he has got up. Matteo Grattarola moves on to 3 dropped marks. Matteo Grattarola is through in section 4, only the 2nd rider to pull that off. And his place in the 2nd round tonight looks decidedly more assured than it did before that one, that's for sure. 3 marks, only Busto was on a better score at this stage, and even then only by a single. 2 sections to go. This looks impossible from what we've seen so far. 5 riders who've not even made it halfway up to crossing this cylinder. Grattarola will be the latest to have a go. Not like it's worth rushing, almost 3 minutes still on the clock. Penultimate section for Matteo Grattarola. 3 top 6 finishes in 10 X-Trials. Looking set to make it 4 in 11. I think it's more likely that he's going to get through section 6 to put his place in round 2 than this one in section 5. Grattarola is up. Oh, Matteo Grattarola has done it! 5 riders failing section 5. Matteo Grattarola books his place in round 2 and in flying style. A clean in the penultimate section. Grattarola on just 3. And if he can avoid a failure in section 6, he'll beat Busto as well. He's in trouble though early in section 6. It's a clumsy start. Mark for leaning. Don't think the observer had picked that up initially, but he's advised by the referee then. Agree with that one. Drop mark for leaning at the top of the first cylinder. It was a scrappy start to the section for Matteo Grattarola. Mark on the board. He's still only on 4. Still 2 more to play with. If you score more than 3 marks in a section, of course, it is a fiasco, a failure, which is worth 5. If he scores 5 here, he'll drop behind Busto and onto 8. Riders must drop down onto this block below that cylinder and just behind it. All of them so far have done this in exactly the same way. You're not going to try and risk going front forward because gravity and momentum will carry you forward out of the section more than likely. So you bridge, then you drop the back wheel down. Sounds easy from the commentary position. It's not easy out there, I can tell you that. Jorge Casales failed this section. Toby Martin failed this section. Matteo Grattarola will not fail this section. Grattarola is through in section number 6. Punches the air with delight. Oh, what a brilliant lap that was from Matteo Grattarola. Just 4 marks from 6. He beats Jaime Busto by 3, and Matteo Grattarola is the latest rider to book his place in the heat stages of X-Trial Andorra la Vella. Grattarola through on 4, Busto through on 7, Mikel Gelabert through on 10, Marseille, Martin and Casales in the drop zone. Beautiful performance that from Grattarola. Nervous start on his return to the X-Trial World Championship, his first X-Trial since December 2017, and he took 2 marks in section 1. 1 for footing, 1 for leaning. Well, the lean was first, the foot was to drag himself to the end of the section. Got his night back on track with cleans in sections 2 and 3, and he couldn't have been happier at the end of that performance, because what a ride it was through section 5. So much for that being impossible. The 5 riders before him had got nowhere near to getting through the section. But Matteo Grattarola flew up as though he's been an X-Trial regular throughout his career. And then a single drop mark in section 6. Nervous start to the section, but from there he rode it beautifully. Grattarola through to round 2. Brilliant effort from the Italian. So unless Fajardo, Raga and Bo will score more than 20 marks, Casales will be out. Gabriel Marseille waiting for an error. Jorge Fajardo, or less likely, Adam Raga and Tony Bo. He is eliminated. Marseille at the moment in the drop zone, as we've said, on 11 marks. He'll rue that drop mark in section 3. 6 sections for Jorge Fajardo then. On the occasion of his 100th X-Trial appearance, the Sherco man. Very disappointing summer it's been for him, his worst since 2005. He was down in 8th in Trial GP. Keen for a strong X-Trial season to put that behind him. Single drop mark then for Jorge Fajardo for leaning. Some balancing on that first step, first crest for Jorge Fajardo, and first drop mark. Grattarola, Busto and Casales all drop marks in this section. It will just be the single dab though for Fajardo. Well, if he wants to pick Grattarola, he's only got 2 marks to play with now. What a sensational performance that was from Matteo Grattarola. What can Jorge Fajardo do for the remainder of this lap? Section 2 now. 5 consecutive riders have cleaned this. Jorge Fajardo very close to dropping a mark for leading. Just about gets away with it. 1 from 2. Jorge Fajardo actually finished the night 3rd here in X-Trial Andorra la Vella in 2019. He was later disqualified, so he keeps the appearance but doesn't have the podium on his statistical account. With him in the section tonight. Single drop mark given for that first step in section 3. So it's 1 mark from the first 2, another for section 3. The rest of the section done well. So he's on 2 from 3. Now it's all about what he can do in these 2 big hitters, section 4 and 5, that have taken the majority of marks in what has generally been a low-scoring X-Trial. Say that to Jorge Casales, but Matteo Grattarola just 4, Jaime Busto 7, The riders on the bubble. Gilbert through on 10. Marseille at the moment in the drop zone on 11. It's really tight in the mid-pack, as we expected it to be this season. Big names throughout the order. Riders, vast majority of whom have podiums to their name in the X-Trial World Championship. Tony Grattarola and Martin, who don't. Gironi Fajardo in total has 28 podiums in the X-Trial World Championship. Big step for section 4. Fajardo to his arc. Little wiggle to bring the bike back straight to then teeter down the other side. The main step of section 4 completed with a single drop mark. Get through to the end of this. And Gironi Fajardo is one section away from earning qualification himself for round number 2. Section 5 next up. There's no room for error now for Fajardo. If he fails the next 2, it'll be 13 marks, and he will be the next rider to slip into the drop zone. Seven marks to play with for Fajardo. And we know that all but one of the riders have been taken for 5 in this section 5. Fajardo. Can he pull off the miracle that Matteo Grattarola managed before him? 3 minutes to go. Fajardo can take his time, and he is taking his time on the penultimate section. Down goes Gironi Fajardo, and he's out of the section for a 5. For a moment, I thought he might be able to catch the bike and bring himself up for another go. But instead, he will move on to section 6. So he had his first opportunity to book his place in round 2 in section 5. He's got his second opportunity here in section 6. 8 marks his score. 11 the target. 2 to play with now for Gironi Fajardo if he wants to guarantee his place in round number 2 ahead of Gabriel Marseille. Clean so far on the first step. Caught out a couple of riders, including Matteo Grattarola for a mark. Fajardo is up. Main step still to come. Can afford to take his time. Gironi Fajardo, veteran stage of his career, 36-year-old. Second oldest behind Adam Raga, a real veteran these days of the X-Trial World Championship. David Danes urging calm as Gironi Fajardo is clean in section 6. Becomes the latest rider to book his place in round number 2. He does so in 3rd position provisionally, behind Jaime Busto, who finished on 7, and Matteo Grattarola, who has finished on a spectacular 4. 2 riders still to go. They are the 2 all-time greats of the X-Trial World Championship. The sport's all-time record highest point scorer and podium earner, Adam Raga, versus the 14 times world champion, Tony Bowe. We'll see them matched up again later on in tonight's grand final. The neutrals will certainly hope that we do. This is Gironi Fajardo's performance. Single drop mark in section 4. That's what paved the way for him to do the job. Section 6 looks the easier of the second half of this lap. Only 2 riders have failed, Toby Martin and Jorge Casales. Casales, regardless of what happens here, will be eliminated tonight. And more than likely, we're now looking at Gabriel Marseille and Toby Martin eliminated as well. As long as Adam Raga and Tony Bowe can score 10 marks or fewer. No room for error this season. 2 rounds in the World Championship. And it's clear that for both Adam Raga and Tony Bowe, the first target is to get through to tonight's grand final. The points are weighted equally in Andorra la Vella and Barcelona in 2 weeks' time, but in the case of a tie-break for riders with an equal number of victories and second places, the tie-break would be the final round X-Trial Barcelona. So that is going to be a massive night, but both need to set themselves up for it. Adam Raga, round number 1. If you find yourself out of position in the opening round, you could face your main rival in the heats. That is the worst possible scenario for the likes of Adam Raga. Slightly rushed towards the end of section 1 there. Looked as though Raga was scrabbling out of it, but he's done so clean. Strong start to the lap for Adam Raga. 4 marks the target total if he wants to try and win this lap, which of course would be the aim. Won't want to end up further down the order and risk meeting Tony Bowe in the heat stages. Adam Raga then. He's up. Elegant technical expertise of Adam Raga in section 2. Clean from 2. Gilbert and Marseille were before him. Those are the two riders on either side of the qualification cut-off at the moment. They're on 10, Marseille on 11. Raga receiving instructions from Mark Riva, who's his minder here tonight. Section 3. So far, so good for Adam Raga, aiming to become the second rider to reach the halfway mark in this lap. Still clean. As I said previously, X-Trial's record all-time highest point scorer passed the 1,500 point mark last season. He's 38 times an X-Trial winner. Only 3 of those victories, though, in the last 5 seasons since moving to TRS. Those familiar yellow colours. Raga is clean in section 3. 10 marks still to play with. 3 sections still to go. 2 failures, and Raga is eliminated, unless Tony Poe has a disaster. So at this stage of the competition, Raga is only 2 failures away, potentially seeing his X-Trial World Championship challenge brought to an end. Raga then needing to do the job. This is the first part of the job. Main step of section 4. Nobody's been through this one clean. We've had 3 riders get through it with a single dab: Grattarola, Busto and Fajardo. Adam Raga 2 will take a mark for leaning. Will then drop down the other side. So 1 mark, 9 still to play with. Adam Raga is successfully out of section 4. First drop mark of the lap for him. As I said, 9 still to play with. 10 is the maximum that Adam Raga can score and be assured of his place in the heat stages. Section 5, only 1 rider has made it through this one. It was Matteo Grattarola. If Raga wants to secure qualification before section 6, then it's here that he needs to do it. Won't want it to go down to the final section, of course. Single marked is all about this big step late on. Failed by 6 riders so far, cleaned by 1 Matteo Grattarola. If Adam Raga gets through this section, he will be guaranteed his place in round number 2. If it's a failure, it leaves his progression in doubt. Section 5 for Adam Raga. And he's down. Adam Raga is down for a 5-mark score. Still only Matteo Grattarola has been able to find his way through that section. And in the process, Raga drops behind the Italian in the standings to 3rd position provisionally. And this is where we talk about this shortened X-Trial World Championship calendar putting the riders under intense pressure. If Adam Raga fails this section, he could find himself out of X-Trial Andorra La Vella, and his 2021 world title hopes all but over already. You wouldn't bet on that happening, it must be said. Raga is a calm and capable performer, and a rider of such experience. We know he understands how to withstand pressure. Single drop mark for leaning there on the first crest of section 6. He's now on 7. 10 is the maximum he can score. 3 more to play with. Well, of course, as long as he doesn't fail this section, he will be through. If he does fail it, he's staring elimination in the face. A failure here would move him on to 11. He'd drop behind Marseille in the standings. One final step for Adam Raga, who books his place in round number 2. 2 errant dabs in sections 4 and 6. A 5-mark score in section 5. He finishes the lap on 7. He drops behind Jaime Busto on count back. 7 marks apiece for the two. Grattarola 4, Busto 7, Raga 7 after that performance. Fajardo slots in 4th position. It's still Marseille, Martin and Casales in the drop zone, with Tony Poe to come. And you'd have to predict at this stage that Marseille, Martin and Casales are going home. But we saw that Adam Raga was only 1 section away from potentially dropping out tonight. Single drop mark in section 4, single drop mark in section 6 later on as well. The failure here in section 5 is what left Raga's place in round 2 in doubt. But he steadies the ship. The fine ride in section 6 later on. But it's Tony Poe. He receives the adulation of the crowd. We haven't even started yet. Tony Bowe moves above Adam Raga here into top spot, he will meet Raga in the heat stages. If Tony Bowe wins round 1, by my reckoning, he will be the first seed, Raga would be the 4th seed, and they'd meet in heat 2. My goodness me, this X-Trial World Championship is hotting up nice and early. Round 1, Tony Bowe. This is going to be massive. Every section, every round throughout this shortened 2021 season. Tony Bowe, back wheel style. He's busy. All the others struggling with. Clean for Tony Bowe in section 1. Ten marks the qualification cutoff. Bowe scores 10, he's safe. If he scores more than 10, will be eliminated. Straightforward as that at this stage. Only winner to date at X-Trial Andorra La Vella, Tony Bowe. Only dropped 2 marks all night here in 2019. It was one of those consummate performances and really an end-of-season party for him as well. He'd already wrapped up the World Championship title. Different story tonight, intense pressure. That one is a home round for Tony Bowe. He is a resident here in Andorra, as he showed us, of course, in social media visits to his house during the pandemic, keeping us all entertained. Clean so far for Tony Bowe. But it's the second half of this lap that has proved more perilous for the riders thus far. Clean after 3 sections. So was Adam Raga, so was Mikel Jalabert. Squeezed home as for round number 2. Tony Bowe then for section 4. Nobody's been clean through this one so far tonight. Can Bowe maintain his clean record? Up he goes. No, he can't. But it's a single drop mark so far. Bowe drops his first mark of round number 1. Therefore his first mark of the night. He's through section 4. Unless he fails the remaining 2 sections, Tony Bowe will be safely through to round number 2. Is there any strategy to be played here for Bowe? Does he want to manipulate things here to avoid meeting Adam Raga in the heat stages, which is probably the biggest risk to a World Championship, frankly, for Bowe? Repsol Honda have discussed the current situation, the current state of play as far as who could meet who in the heat stages. Tony Bowe, section 5. Only 1 rider has made it through this section. That was Matteo Grattarola, and I was practically rubbing my eyes afterwards. Fine performance from the Italian. What's Bowe got to offer? Turn on the back wheel. It's going to be a big lead. It's not good enough. And Matteo Grattarola is the only rider to make it through section 5 in round 1. What a brilliant performance that was from Grattarola. Even the great Tony Bowe couldn't make it through there. Everyone will be scrabbling around to watch the replay of Grattarola before we get to the grand final, I can tell you that. Section 6. If Tony Bowe fails this section, he will be eliminated from round 1. Down in 7th position. Not something that we've seen very often from Tony Bowe. Currently on a winning streak of 9 consecutive X-Trials. His last defeat, Barcelona 2019. It's a win rate of 73%. 92 appearances. My goodness me, that's nerves. Drop mark for Tony Bowe. Frightening moment before the final step. He's going to get out of it. Tony Bowe books his place in the heat stages. Matteo Grattarola will be your top seed. Adam Raga moves above Tony Bowe in the classifications for round number 1, and they avoid meeting one another in round 2. Bowe will move into heat 2 against Matteo Grattarola and Gironi Fajardo. Meanwhile, heat 1 will feature Jaime Busto as top seed with Adam Raga and Mikel Jalabert. And I start to wonder whether Tony Bowe's drop mark there late on was to avoid meeting Adam Raga in the heat stages, or whether it was simply a mistake. I'll tell you what, if it was simulated to a Shakespearean level of performance, because it looked like a nervous moment to me for Tony Bowe. There was a moment there where I thought he was going to fall from the section. Look at that. That's how close Tony Bowe came to seeing his World Championship shredded his hopes on the opening night of the campaign. If he'd fallen out of that section there, it would have been a 5-mark score. It would have been 11 marks. Gabriel Marseille would have beaten him. Tony Bowe saves his blushes. We've got a 3-way tie on 7. First rider to take to the sections out of those 3 was Jaime Busto. He's 2nd seed. Adam Raga was next. He's 3rd seed. Tony Bowe, last rider, advantageous starting position. He qualifies 4th. And Raga finishing 3rd and 4th in round number 1. Avoid meeting one another in the heat stages. Matteo Grattarola wins round number 1 after becoming the only rider successfully through section 5. What an astonishing performance from Matteo Grattarola. But look at that for a standings. 6 riders separated by just 6 marks in round number 1. More great extra action still to come from Andorra la Vella.
¿De dónde eres, José?
Yo, de Pontevedra.
Madre mía, de Pontevedra, però si jo pensava que era de Palau de Plegamans, era de per aquí. Mira, però si no el veurà.